Che here, the No Spoon Podcast. Thank you for checking out my channel. If you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe and turn on your post notifications so that you don't miss out on the latest content. Also, like and share with as many people as possible. And if you got an opinion or something that you just want to add to the conversation, I want to hear about it down in the comments section. Until then, enjoy the video. I think what happened is that Kanye, right? I think when Kanye thought that when he became a billionaire and he reached a certain level of having a certain amount of money, that would change everything, right? That would give him a certain level of power. And what he realized is that once you cross a certain threshold, that everything gets kind of stonewalled, right? I wrote an article, and I think you and I had talked about this last year or earlier this year. Brian Flores, who was he was the coach of the Miami Dolphins, and he had got fired, and then he sued the NFL, and for saying that they weren't hiring, their hiring practices were racist and this and that, right? And so I wrote an article at Spoon TV. What I was saying that when you see like Brian Flores and you see Kaepernick and they're trying to paint this narrative that the NFL is racist, they're doing it for a purpose. And that purpose is this. If you look at the NFL is comprised of 32 teams. So, we all say this, like, growing up as a kid, we all go, if I was a billionaire, I'd do this. If I was a billionaire, I'd do that. And so you say, well, if I was a billionaire, I'd own an NFL team. You can't just own an NFL team. I don't care how much money you have, because there's only 32. And that means you have to be like, I don't care how much money you got. If one of those 32 teams does not want to sell, you are not going to buy it. And then if they do want to sell, how many other just as equally or not more powerful and more rich billionaires are there that's going to be trying to position themselves to get that team? You look at NFL teams, and I'm using this as an example for a reason. The Rooneys, the Hunts, Jerry Jones. Who's gonna own the Cowboys, which is the most lucrative of all the sports franchises, the Dallas Cowboys? Who's gonna own them when Jerry Jones dies? Stephen Jones. Yeah. Exactly. So nobody's giving up NFL teams. So if I'm an outsider and I'm not in that group of 32 owning an NFL team, how do I get my hands on one? You start to create a narrative, and you use the media, you use your connections, you start using pawns like Brian Flores, who actually is now, as an NFL coach, he's coaching with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we haven't heard anything about his lawsuit, if you notice. Right? What I'm saying is that once you get to a certain level of business and a certain level of money, you start to realize that doors don't open like you think that they're going to. Yeah, you have the power to go buy as many Mercedes-Benzes as you want, or buy as much beachfront property as you might like. But you don't have the power to do certain big power moves. And if you watch some of the interview that he did in this one, he talked about being with Adidas, and he talked about, that he didn't understand how the factory system worked. And what he was basically trying to say is he didn't understand the infrastructure, right? You can have the idea, and this is why we look at hip hop and you look at like Suge Knight, Master P, Puffy. Yeah, they all owned record labels, but what they didn't own was distribution, because distribution takes infrastructure. Distribution, you have to own. You actually have to own the factories that make the product. You actually have to own the trucks that move the product. You actually have to own the brick and mortar that sells the product. Like, you actually have to own these things. And I think what Kanye was realizing, that once he hit this certain level and he thought that, okay, all these doors are going to open up and now I got real power, he realized that he ran into this cabal, we can call it, of rich, very, very elite, wealthy people who are not going to let you in just because you have a certain dollar amount attached to your name.
Right. And I agree 1,000%, Che, because once you get to that level, it's not about money anymore. It's about legacy. It's about family. It's about lineage. So it's about everything that money really can't buy, but that what money sets up. And so most folks are naive to think that if I get to a certain level, I'll be invited into all the circles. No, you won't. because what they're doing is preservation. They're preserving, like you say, NFL owners going to keep passing down teams. They're not going to let somebody come in and take it. So like to your point in your article, really, you think about it, they just want to socially pressure an owner to sell the team. You basically hold them hostage with you get the woke mob to surround the owner and say, listen, give up the team and we're going to protest and we're going to march around you. You'll never have a peaceful, like, you know what I'm saying? I think Stacey Abrams even said, you know, I can get the All-Star game shut down in Atlanta. Like, she threatened the MLB, like, y'all better move it or I'm going to just have folks come and just mess it all up. So I agree with you. What they're trying to do is socially leverage their way into the NFL. And you know, like I know, if it works one time, it's over.